Quarantine dream, this is kinda extreme. Wanna take one for the team, but I'm not sure what team I'm on. Hello everyone, welcome again to Corona Connections Worldwide, the podcast where I catch up with friends in different countries to see how this global pandemic is affecting them. My name is Angela Callender. I am your host today, and we are broadcasting per my Zoom background from the back of the St. Louis Cathedral in the French Quarter. It gets brought up in the episode that this is never a street that you would see empty or an area that you would see unpopulated, but as the devoted listeners of the podcast know, I am cycling through some photography that I took earlier in the pandemic of the spooky, empty city. You can find this photography if you're interested at my website, angelacallender.com, and calendar is C-A-L-O-N-D-E-R. Don't get it twisted. Today we're going to Thailand to check in with my friend Vallapa and her fiancé. Her fiancé is actually from Cameroon, so we get to discuss the situation in Cameroon a little bit as well. This episode is a little shorter. We had a little bit of technical difficulties at the beginning and also in the middle. I hadn't had any of my Zoom meetings time out until this one. I guess I was being done a favor by Zoom in my earlier interviews, but at the 50-minute mark, which was more like the 40-minute mark of the recorded conversation because we couldn't get Valapa's audio to work at first, we switch over. Also, like the Kazakhstan episode from last time, this is one where we're having to navigate like a 12-hour difference, 13-hour in fact. So it was early morning for me, and I forgot to set the view to the gallery view for the first half of the conversation. So just a couple little hiccups. Bear with me/us as I navigate this new world of podcasting. I'm excited to announce that I have some corrections to make. Apparently my mom is not the only one who listens to this podcast, and my youngest brother also pops in from time to time because he was very excited to inform me that, as smart as I tried to sound talking about Malcolm Brogdon playing for the Milwaukee Bucks in my France interview, he is with the Pacers now and had a great season. So I've been outed in my habit of finding exactly one talking point about any given subject and beating it into the ground for years, even if it is no longer true. So keep corrections coming if you notice them. I have a few other corrections to make as well. My guest Alex in Kazakhstan last week said something like there are 14 million homeless people in the United States. It kind of sounded like he said 40, but I think he meant 14. And I looked that up, and the number that I got for the number of homeless people in the United States is closer to 500,000, which is still staggering. It's still way too many, but big discrepancy there that I wanted to correct. Also, there was just a bit of hyperbole on my part a few times. I liked to talk about how Americans can't go anywhere, which isn't entirely true. I know we can still go to Mexico. I have a friend in Panama now. So borders are not entirely closed, but throughout all of this, a lot of countries have seemed to not really want us around. And then in another episode, I had mentioned that a bunch of the storms that were passing through the Gulf were missing Louisiana, when in fact I meant that they were missing New Orleans. And I think even in the same episode I mentioned that Lake Charles, Louisiana has been really badly damaged by these storms. So I just misspoke there, and it's been driving me mad for weeks, so I'm really glad to have that off of my chest. Thankfully this is a shorter episode because this intro is taking me forever today, but do just always want to mention that you can find us on Instagram at Corona Connects Pod, on Twitter at Rona Connects Pod, and I'm doing a really bad job of keeping up with the Twitter, but I'll do something today. How's that? Rate, review, subscribe on whatever platform you are listening or watching on, and tell a friend if you think anybody might be interested in hearing these conversations. Oh, and one final little plug. If you're watching on YouTube, I am in my City Waste Union shirt, which are the sanitation workers in New Orleans. They went on strike in May, fighting for hazard pay and PPE and a general living wage. I mentioned in an earlier episode that there was a bit of frustration on the part of people who were considered essential workers, who were really putting their lives and their families' lives on the line to do jobs such as sanitation work, and that they rightfully felt a certain way about people like myself who were being paid $600 a week to stay home, while they were making considerably less than that to do their job. So you can find them at City Waste Union on Instagram. They have their GoFundMe link and everything there if you wanted to support them, because to my knowledge, the strike is still ongoing. I haven't heard or seen anything about a resolution being reached. So yeah, just wanted to give them a little shout as well. So with that, let's go to Thailand and check in with Vallapa and Martin. Let me introduce my very good friend Vallapa and her fiancé, who I've just met, Martin, who are joining us from Thailand. Are you in Bangkok or are you back in Toong Song? It seems like you go between the two.
I'm back in Thung Song for like 2 years now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, Vallapa became a good friend when I was teaching in Toong Song. I moved there in 2011 and left in 2012, so it's been almost like a decade ago. But
Yeah.
she ran a restaurant that a lot of the foreigners grew to like. It was one of those things that some of us called it the pink restaurant and some of us called it the green restaurant. And then we were like, oh, we're talking about the same restaurant. Vallapa was just a dear friend, helped us with so much. I was remembering that you, like when I was bringing Ollie back to America, you were the one who like called the airport and got
Yeah.
all the information figured out for me about going 3 days early and having to quarantine him, or not quarantine him, but check in with the airport quarantine. Always helping us with all sorts of things just like that. And Martin, where are you from? How did the two of you meet?
So he's from Cameroon, but he's been living here for
like forever. I've been here like 7 years, but not in Toong Song. I've been living in Songkhla,
Okay.
still down south of Thailand.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I don't think I ever went there.
Sorry?
I didn't make it. There's a lot of places in the year and a half that I was there. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, so many places I
You were
didn't
here
go.
just for a year, right?
you're stuck here, just only in Thung Song.
Well, I mean, I traveled around. We went to like Krabi, and Surat Thani and Koh Tao and Koh Phangan, but there's so many beautiful beach communities. It's hard to go to all of them. But I always heard really beautiful things about Songkhla.
It is beautiful.
How does it compare to Toong Song?
Whoa, you cannot imagine.
The joke is that Toong Song is a small town that is not on the beach, and there's a lot of redeeming qualities, a lot of beautiful waterfalls we used to go visit, and friendly people, but maybe not such a tourist attraction.
Go back time.
Yeah, not much.
Exactly. Exactly.
I think it's the only beautiful thing in Toong Song.
But you still seem to travel around a lot. Like you're going to Chiang Mai on Sunday, is that correct?
It's
Yeah.
Monday, yeah. Soon. You been there, yeah, in Chiang Mai?
Yes, when my family came to visit, we took the train up to Bangkok and then I guess continued on to Chiang Mai. Or actually, no, my family would have flown into to Bangkok. I took the train to Bangkok, met them, then we went to Chiang Mai. That's how it worked. But that's great. So throughout the pandemic, you've been mostly in Toong Song then?
Well, at the peak of it, she came to Songkhla because she couldn't run her place, so she shut down, and then she moved in with me for a couple of months.
Okay. So you were still living in Songkhla when the pandemic began, and then only more recently the both of you moved back to Toong Song?
Well, I'm still in Songkhla.
He's just moving around like between Songkhla and here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like it started from March.
Mm-hmm.
It was really rough, and the time in Thong Song.
Actually,
Is this okay now? Can you hear me clearly?
Okay, yeah. So you were saying it started in March and that was a rough time because you had to shut down the restaurant.
Yes. But it was the first week, it was like people, like, they still came, but it wasn't really that's popular anymore for going out to eat in the restaurant because they got really scared about this. And then I finally made my decision to shut my place down. Yeah, for that. And then I just moved to just spend a couple months in Songkhla with him.
Okay. And was it the same in Songkhla where a lot of the restaurants and bars shut down?
Yeah.
So it was like a countrywide rule that was passed by the government that all the businesses should shut down.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, especially for like the first month of it, it was a really complete shutdown because even the restaurants were asked to shut down. They could only just do like delivery, but they couldn't entertain guests. So, yeah.
And I'm sure like tourism had basically completely cut off, right? Like people weren't able to come and visit. What do you do in Songkhla, Martin?
I teach too.
You're a teacher. Okay. And so were schools also shut down at that time as well?
Around that time, yeah. Fortunately, it was just about school break. School break was in April, so shut down
last week of March.
Yeah, started at the last week of March. So yeah, it was just about school break. Yeah.
Okay, so that was kind of convenient timing. And then I know the famous holiday is in April, Songkran. Did people like still try to do that in their own little way, or was it basically completely shut down?
Yeah, it's completely shut down from everywhere.
Yeah,
even us, like we were planning to make a plan for like Bali or Chiang Mai at that time on April because he got holiday, but then we booked it everything. But then the government just announced it's like so it's no more Songkran and the time, so cut everything out.
Right, and Songkran, for people who are unfamiliar, is the famous water holiday where everybody just throws water. And when I was in Thailand, I moved there like 2 weeks before Songkran, so like it was kind of like welcome to Thailand, and it was such a fun thing to do. And then the second year I was there, Wayne and I had gone to Bali and just booked it wrong. We came back like the day after Songkran, like we I don't know. We were being stupid. We like came back and like all the like cars were like, how people put spray on the cars and everything. We're like, did we miss? We missed it. What were we thinking?
But actually, we just only had like 113. But like in Chiang Mai, they run it at like a week for Songkran, like 7 days, 10 days.
Yeah.
So it's like every year is different.
Did you
this
get?
Year is totally different.
This year is totally different. Yeah, and I don't know. Like right now, our Thanksgiving holiday in the United States is coming up, and people are having to make the decision. Like my family from Virginia, for the past, basically since I came back from Thailand, we've been spending this very important holiday with good family friends in North Carolina. So my family would come down from Virginia and a bunch of us would get together. And now I'm in New Orleans and one of the daughters of the other family are in Chicago. So if we like did the event this year, it would be like people coming from 4 different states and like between 15 or 20 people together. And we had to be like, I don't think so, guys. We can't do it this year. But I think that other people probably still are doing Thanksgiving celebrations, even when they're told not to. So like for you, like in Songkran, so early in the pandemic, before people really had a chance to be kind of conditioned to know how bad it was, were people still trying to have their own little celebrations in some areas, or were people pretty good about knowing that we can't do this holiday and we need to just like stay at home and not try to celebrate?
Wow. You could barely see people outside, but I think families got together, just like home,
like
kind
parties, home.
Yeah.
We had a curfew.
Yes.
Yeah, we had curfew.
There was curfew too.
Okay.
It's like after 10 p.m. you cannot get out of the house after 10 p.m. This was like a month or something.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Even in even in the small towns like Toong Song, they were having they had a curfew.
Everywhere in Thailand.
Yeah.
Okay.
This was a curfew. Even car driving, like driving cars, after 10 p.m. everything had to shut, or you have to have a letter from from the city that you need to do something, but the curfew time was really difficult for us.
Yeah.
I think they also like told people not to move from one province to the other.
Yeah. Cannot.
Like in Toong Song, you cannot
They
go
were
to
very strict about this. They check-ins,
Wow.
During the day, fine, but after 10 p.m., it's really rough.
So there were like checkpoints on the roads and stuff to prevent people from driving between province to province. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
And then, so that lasted about a month, what sounds like a pretty strict lockdown with businesses shut and curfews and keeping people from traveling between provinces. And then after a month, cases had gone down. Or did you even ever have a big outbreak or a large number of cases?
Not really.
So these were mostly just preventive measures. We know it's in the region. Let's like shut everything down now to get ahead of it. And then so did you and was that pretty effective in preventing a spread? And then you were able to start opening up again after that?
I think it worked. It really worked. Actually, because at some point, most of the cases that were being recorded were people coming from overseas.
That's really shaky.
Yeah.
Have you spent any time in Bangkok during this time?
No.
One time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because my sister.
Oh yeah.
We took my sister. You remember Nat, the youngest one?
Maybe, I don't know. We'll say yes.
She was study with Kyle one time, and
I never even met Kyle, so maybe it was after. Yeah, Kyle came after my time. Yeah, I missed a whole other chapter.
Yes. And then I took my sister, but on that time we drove to Bangkok because the transportation and that time they cut them down.
Yeah.
Cannot fly. You cannot take a train or bus, van, nothing. The only option that you can do just drive.
Right.
But you need to make a report, and you need to get the letter that you have to cross like all these provinces that you need to show, because some they have like a checkpoint and then they need to check your paper. Because if you don't have the paper, they send you back home.
So what was your sister traveling to Bangkok for? Like, what was your reason that you gave the letter? To study. Okay.
She's now the first year in university. Yeah.
Okay. And so when you were on this journey, and that's pretty long, I remember it's like 13 hours by train. How long is it to drive?
10 hours.
Yeah, we drove like 10 hours.
Okay. You went as well, Martin?
Yeah.
Okay. We were,
And so did you get stopped along the way?
No, not really. No, we did not. No.
Did you stay overnight somewhere on the way to break up the journey, or did you just drive the whole way?
No, we drove straight
the whole way.
Okay.
To Bangkok.
We left quite early, so we got there midday.
And when was that?
July.
Is it?
Yeah, it was
July. And did you notice the vibe in Bangkok was a little different, or did it feel pretty similar to?
That time I think we were getting better in that time.
Yeah.
We started to get really because after curfew, then the government started to allow us like a bar, because bars been closing for months.
Yeah.
And then they allowed it to start the business again. But then everywhere else now in Thailand, especially in Bangkok, we need to close at midnight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a different vibe.
Yeah, but one restaurant, living there still okay. It's just no foreigners.
Yeah.
Only Thai people now and then. It's look a little bit quiet and it's really different.
Especially with the fact that you have to close at midnight. Around that time when everything starts happening. So if you tell people to go home at the time.
Right. Some people, they just, I have just 2 hours a night, after dinner, to hang out. It's not really that, fun no more. It's not enough time for us.
Yeah, no, New Orleans is a very tourist based place as well. So it like I'm doing this thing with my Zoom backgrounds where I'm showing all these photos where there's just no people around, which like this is where I like quote unquote am right now. It's like a very popular place. Like you never see this street like oh wait, wrong way. Like it's never empty. And in some ways it was kind of nice. Like it, like in some ways it was like, oh, especially to take pictures, like to like be able to take beautiful pictures in the French Quarter without tourists everywhere, and to feel like you get to enjoy your city a little bit. But then, yeah, like locals also are subjected to the same things. Like, oh, I might also want to go to the bars. I might want to do this. And now that tourists are allowed back, I mean, it has been not good in a lot of cases. Like, and they keep changing the rules for the bars. Like in New Orleans, we're kind of famous for you're able to take your drinks to go. In most places in America, you can't take your beer or your cocktail out of the bar when you want to leave. But in New Orleans, you can. Like historically, like we're very famous for that. Yeah, just walk in the streets with your drink. And it was sort of funny because in a lot of places in the United States that before they didn't allow this, they made new rules because they don't want people to stay in the bars. So especially when the weather was nice, they're like, you know what, like, and to help the businesses, like, okay, we want the businesses to stay in business. Okay, you can take your cocktails to go. It's a new thing we're allowing. But in New Orleans, they actually did the opposite. They're like, okay, man, this is a problem. Like, we still got all these tourists coming to town and like flooding the streets with the drinks. Now bars cannot do to-go drinks. And so it was like, it was totally backwards. It was like completely backwards from what was happening in other places. And now we're allowed to do it again, but like Halloween, which was around 2 weeks ago, the French Quarter was just, which is the like kind of popular, the oldest area of town and the popular area for tourists. And you know, I went through a stroll with my mask on earlier in the day just to see it, and it was bittersweet because like part of my heart just like felt really happy to like see people in costumes in the French Quarter again and to hear music, like just these things that you really missed. But then just like looking around and like seeing so many people and a lot of people are not wearing masks. And sure enough, it's like 2 weeks later now and we're seeing a huge spike. So like that was what people were basically predicting would happen, that like everybody would forget that we're in a pandemic for Halloween, and then and now we'll see the effects of it. But so you said that you were doing better in July. So is that to say that you're also seeing a bit of a spike now? Are you in a second wave like a lot of places?
No. I think Thailand is pretty safe, I can say, at the moment.
Is tourists, like, are foreigners allowed to come in, or are your borders still pretty closed?
They just let a group of Chinese go in.
This is the first round for Chinese people, but they're pretty checked and they have like quarantine stuff.
Yeah.
Now, like many hotels in Thailand, they started to do this kind of for this, like they can have like a long stay people to stay in their hotel for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and they have like they have like a new offer for that, like quarantine. Yeah, like the business, because it's really affect like this tourism stuff and all the hotel things, like you know.
But sorry, you broke up a little bit. Are you saying that the hotels kind of have like a quarantine package almost, like to build in the quarantine time into their stays?
Yeah, it's like a new choice for customer.
Yeah. Well, when I was interviewing my friends in Curacao, the Caribbean island that is also very dependent on tourism, they were talking about their quarantine rules and everything, and we mentioned how it's such a difficult thing to have to plan into a vacation, because most people only take a vacation that's like 2 weeks long. So if you're gonna like travel somewhere and like have to quarantine.
Yes. Another thing is just like they can ensure you when you stay here, say you got a paper to confirm that, okay, you clean and stuff like that. Like hotel will do this to you. We hand you about all the documents and stuff. So it'd be another good way for this business, and then, you know, getting people like they check in before they let tourists like in.
Mm-hmm. So Is China the only country that are allowed to visit at this point, or is that just they're allowing this one group of people?
Not just the Chinese. Actually, two of my friends who are teachers, they just got into the country. One of them, the lady is from the Philippines. She had a quarantine in Bangkok. The other one had it in Krabi. That's where she works. A friend of mine too came in from Cameroon. She also had a quarantine. So it's not just the Chinese.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you, I mean, I guess you and Vallapa are together, but did you ever consider like going back to Cameroon during this time, or did foreigners who were in town to teach, like, did they have to make this decision? Like, do I want to stay here or should I try to go back to my country while I still can? Do you know people who ran into that?
Well, like for me, my country shut down pretty quick. I think we even shut down the borders before Thailand. And well, at that time too, when it just started, I just thought it's gonna be for something for just like a month. I didn't expect it to last this long.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't thinking of that. That wasn't an option because I knew that if I go back, probably I'll get stuck. Like most of my friends, they were back home for like 8 months. Especially the one that just got back into the country. She was there for like 9 months or so. So because most people went back home around that time, around
School
March.
break.
Yeah, school break. So
Okay.
they got stuck. So
That's
and then in April or late April, flights, there were no flights anymore, right? From Bangkok.
Yes.
The airport was like, they were only receiving Thais who were out of the country.
right.
Yeah.
And then how did that affect visas? Like, it seems like people would run into an issue where maybe now they're overstaying their visa because they're stuck here. Do you know if they, made exceptions for people overstaying visas in that situation?
They gave, people who were here on tourist visas, they did 3 extensions for everybody.
Okay. That's good.
I think it's still going on up till the end of this month. Yeah.
Gotcha. And is school back in session now? Are you back to teaching, or how is that working?
It is. We started in, when was that?
August?
Yes, in August, but we started teaching online for a month. And then we went back to school. And then each class will send in just half of the students per day. The next day, the other half comes, they kept on swapping. But now everybody's back to school.
Okay. When they were doing the half and half, would the half of the kids who stayed home, would they follow along with the lesson online, or were they really just going to school half the time?
Well, that is what they said. They said you could teach in class and then use Zoom to teach the others at home, but it wasn't effective. So
right.
It was just a waste of time. So what I was doing is that I just told them, hey, you're back home, just stay home. When you come back to school, I'm going to teach you the same thing. So that was it. I just had to repeat.
Got it.
Lesson.
Got it. What age do you teach?
I teach the higher level, Matayum.
Okay. Gotcha.
Between 13 to 18. Yeah.
Oh, so you teach across the whole.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm having to remind myself how it worked. It's like, oh yeah, you do it just like.
You need to read so about this.
I know. Sometimes I think maybe I should just go back, but I wouldn't want to bring Ollie back across the ocean, and I wouldn't want to leave him here either. So.
A dog.
Oh, I see.
Oh yeah, you think I'm talking about a child?
No, you found him on the street.
Yes, yeah, my dog Ollie, Vallapa can show you some pictures.
Ollie, the luckiest dog ever. Now she is in America with you.
Well, when I brought up overstaying the visa, I was reminded of my own situation because I was overstaying my visa a little bit, and I think it was like $25 a day. And just the way, Vallapa, you were the one who figured out for me that we had to check him in at the airport, and then he had to, like, exactly 3 days before we flew.
All in there.
Yeah, so we went to Bangkok, checked him at the quarantine, which was very funny. The vet didn't even like touch him and was like, asked me what sex the dog is. I'm like, I think you can tell. And then yeah, we had to put him in a kennel and just had 3 days in Bangkok. And then when I went to fly, like got him from the kennel, go to the airport staff or the airline staff came and said, "We're really sorry, but you can't fly today. There's an emergency, like we'll have to put you on tomorrow's flight." And it was because there were human remains, like a corpse was also flying on the same plane. And they have to keep it cold in the cargo hold for a corpse, and they have to keep it warm for an animal, and the corpse won. And I was just like, what? Like, I mean, whatever, these are the rules, but I'm already overstaying my visa. Like, I did everything right. Like, I thought there was this exactly 3 days rule. So yeah, I remember when I left, I like had to pay even like 25 extra dollars. Were there ever like mask requirements, or are there still mask requirements to wear masks when you're in public or anything like that?
Yeah, kind of.
But you know, like if we go to like a department store or place like that, then you need to wear it because people are gonna look at you and then don't let you in because they have a checkpoint in the front. But then the restaurant is the place, the bar is the place that you don't need to wear it. We were just talking about this when we saw. So what's different? Why you wear the mask? And then you go to the shopping mall, but then in the restaurant, and you know the small packs, like more people at the bar, dancing club, and they don't even have to wear this. So,
and at a restaurant, are you supposed to have limited capacity and like keep the tables spaced out or anything like that, or is it just like normal restaurant?
It's normal now.
Yeah.
I'm having kind of functions like they're singing karaoke now. You know,
oh gosh.
Yeah. So this was fast.
Yeah.
I thought it would be longer than this, like to quote quarantines and about it. But Thai people, it's really good about this.
Well, I can easily say that in Thailand they kind of beat the virus, you know. So life is almost back to normal.
Yeah, must be nice.
The month was really difficult.
Yeah, they sacrificed, you know. They really did a great deal of sacrifice for this.
Just like, okay, give it 3 months, and then we did our best for this.
Yeah.
Just take like it's gonna be another round for the pandemic, but then
it worked.
Yes.
And did you get the impression that like your national government and then the province governments, that they were all working together pretty well and kind of sharing the same goal, or did some areas fight back a little bit against it, or?
I don't think anybody fought against it, you know.
Yeah.
In some provinces, the rules were a little bit stricter than the others.
Yeah.
Like in Songkhla, I saw a couple of posters that said, if you aren't wearing a mask, you're going to pay like 20K.
There's just like a big sign down the street.
Although I never saw anybody fined, but I heard in Phuket, foreigners had to pay those who weren't putting on a mask. Yeah.
It was very strict. Well,
yeah.
When I saw it, I was like, where's my mask? I'm trying to find my yeah. But people really work this thing out together.
And I understand that there were protests in Bangkok recently about some things involving the new king and people speaking out about that. Like when people were gathering for these protests, like were they masking up or did they not feel like they needed to? Because it's basically
I watched the news. Actually, I've seen on the news like they like protecting themselves by wearing masks, but in the big crowd of people, like 1,000, I don't know if it's working or it's really risky too for this.
Yeah, even with the mask.
Yeah.
Still crowded streets in Bangkok.
Yeah.
But they're pretty much still wearing the mask.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Do you want to, just because it's an interesting thing, do you want to talk about those protests at all and explain just how the monarchy works in Thailand and what people were protesting about, or do you not want to talk about it, or should you not really talk about it? Like, I don't know how strict.
I take a deep breath from this COVID stuff. I can't even think about the other stuff. I want to get back and run my things and try to get back to normal, like on track to work, make money, and try to carry on all my crew and, to work this out. But the people there, I don't know, he's teaching all these students. And then I think even here, we do have like a small purchase too, but not as in Bangkok. It's really like a place. But in Toong Song, I don't hear anything in Toong Song, but in Songkhla, in his school, they have.
Well, I really don't know exactly what it is they're protesting about. But I've seen a few students raising up 3 fingers. They said they.
So just like they just want 3 things to change, like for Thailand now. Like they don't want this government no more. So it means like 8 years by working under all this social stuff, like after they're taking over from the old like government, and then people feel like it's not getting better by being under them, but they keep running their job, but then we get really like, it's pretty hard to explain for this too. But then the other things came across after the King Ramanai passed away. We didn't really want this royalty no more. Like we don't want King Ramadan, or we don't want to be under the royalty no more. Like
Gotcha.
Thai people.
Hold on one second. It's going to cancel my meeting, so I have to email you another invite link. Wow. I need you as my tech guy. I would have been really mad about that. Thank you. If I decide to keep this in, we had to restart a meeting, and Martin was kind of that I was not recording. So great with the international technical difficulties. And I was just recapping that, as Vallapa had been saying before we had to cut off, that people weren't super happy with the new king, which was something that I had been prepared for based on what people were telling me about the old king, who was so dearly beloved and who had led the country for so long when I was living there. And so what is happening in regard to that? Like, are people, like, is there any true consideration to like treat the monarchy differently than it has been in the past, or is that not really an option, and this is the way that it is?
Well, the rules about the monarchy is still there. The thing is, maybe people think the monarchy is not treating them the same way.
With the previous.
Yeah, for like the previous one, like this one doesn't care or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially during the time of
doing anything like the father, like that. So it's just like they got comparing between.
Yeah, they start comparing, and then they be like, well, if we are not even getting anything from this monarchy thing, then let's just
be free.
Yeah, let's just be free from it.
Yeah, and I think in the UK they're dealing with similar things. Like, a lot of people are wondering, like, why do we still have this very outdated institution? Like, a lot of money
We can't even talk about this because it's illegal. You know about this, right? When we talk about the monarchy, then it's always illegal. So people don't want that part in our life no more. We want to be free. We want to talk about this on the street, like without,
fear of going to jail.
Mm-hmm. And that is, from what I understand, the way that the protests have been framed to me, that is sort of what sparked this latest round, that some college students did speak out against the monarchy and then were, I don't know, prosecuted or penalized for it.
On the process is about the COVID stuff too. If it's for the King Ramanai, he would do lots of things like, to help people, like Thai people. But then the Ramadan, he didn't do anything. He just escaped, like he stayed in Germany, and then, he just came here sometime. when people wanted him to give him some things, like, you know, and this country been running, like taking tax from people, like from Thai people, like, and doing nothing for us. That's why this case, it just happened. Like for the protest, like we don't want this no more, because they are taking all this money from people, but they don't serve this country that well, not like the previous king. So that's why they don't want it, and they want to fix some like law, like Thailand. They wanted to
change a few laws
but mostly like about monarchies, you know, like being under, or like we don't want this to take us the advantage no more about.
Did the government offer any type of financial assistance to individuals or to businesses that lost income during that time, or not really?
Yeah, right.
I didn't even have time. It's like 5K. No, they don't really pay. They don't really cover. Like, you know, they only give like 2 million, right, for like kind of a small money, like 3,000 baht per person to just spend during these 2 months after COVID. Like, you know, like government would share with you like 50%, or that's what I heard. But then I just see all the agreements, like they will help you to pay you 150 bahts per person per day. Like when they said like they would share with you half
of your expenses.
of your expenses, but it's not true.
Yeah. To just to put that in context, I think it's, when I was there, it was like 30 baht to the dollar. Is it about the same? Do you know?
I think now it's like 34, I think.
Okay, so 3,000 would now be even less than $100, and so yeah, it's not a lot of assistance.
They're trying to cover up because of the protests too. They're trying to do something like to make people feel, hey, I'm helping you now. I'm handing you like 3K, 5K, but this is a second round, like for another like 2 million people. You know, like but then it's not really.
Anyway, they also made something like I think they paid half of the electricity bills.
Yeah. Like during the previous
around that COVID period.
Yes. You can't really ask for the refunds. I think like for a month or 2 months from the electricity and water bills, you know, they help you from that. Yes.
Okay. And it was the government was helping with those bills, or the utility companies comped the bills themselves?
The government made half of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. But that, like, is that still being offered now that things are opened up, or has that been cut off?
It's been cut off. Now you pay your bills.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Just they cover just like a couple months.
Yeah, I think like 2 months.
Yeah.
Got it. Let's see what else. Were there any widespread testing programs available? Like, have either of you been tested, or did you have the option of getting tested if you had wanted to be, or?
Wow, the irony about it was that it was very difficult for people to even survive at that time. You know, no work, everybody was home.
And just home.
And the testing was extremely expensive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, way over the top. So, and then they said, if you go to maybe to a hospital to get tested, if you test positive, you're not going to pay. But if you test negative, you're going to pay. So who's going to want to pay money to get that?
So it's better stay home.
So I have good news and I have bad news. You're negative, but you owe me a bunch of money.
Yeah. But that's our area is really safe enough. Like, you know, because they check in and then they're making a report every single day, throwback time about that. So we know like which area is really risky.
Yeah.
Like to go out, you know, or stay in the house, like mostly at the border, like Thailand.
I don't think anybody actually woke up one day and then say, "Oh, I'm going to the hospital to get tested to pay that amount of money."
Because like only in Bangkok.
Yeah.
It was rough in Bangkok because Bangkok is the capital, and then people come from everywhere.
Yeah.
That's why it's really, really rough there. But like countries like this, no, not a chance. Yeah. They only keep themselves in the house. Yeah.
Do you know how your situation compares to like Malaysia or Cambodia or Myanmar or anything? Were all your neighboring countries pretty good about it as well, or?
Well, I think there was a spike in Singapore. Philippines should be the highest right now after China, of course. Malaysia, I don't know much.
Really,
Yeah, I don't know
we didn't
much
really hear much about like
Malaysia.
Malaysia or
Yeah,
Vietnam or Laos or Cambodia, like not really,
yeah,
because those kind of country they are not really like a touristic
yeah.
like area for, but Thailand,
For us, the way that like the situation that I understand it to be abroad, like Vietnam is held on this pedestal of like Vietnam handled it so well. Vietnam is like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
picture of, and I know Chris is in Vietnam, so I kind of want to get him on one of the interviews to see how things have been there. What is the situation like in Cameroon now?
it's fine. Uh, it's it's pretty
Getting
much
better?
yeah. Just one digits right now.
Okay, and are there still significant lockdown measures, or has it opened up a lot?
Now it's opened up within Cameroon. It's opened up, but I don't know with if the borders have been opened up for people to come in. But people can now fly out.
Okay,
But I don't know about flying into the country. Yeah.
got it. And was your family affected very much, or your family still okay?
Yeah. My family is pretty much okay. Just for a few of my family members who were business people, they had to, at some point, they had to shut down, you know, but they're all open now. Yeah, up and running.
Gotcha. And the last question that I like to end on is what the perception of the situation in the United States is, if it's being talked about in other countries, because at least me and people who feel the way that I do, we're like sort of embarrassed by the handling of the situation. We think it's very sad that there have
Yeah.
been all of these deaths that, I mean, there are always going to be some deaths, but it just wasn't handled very quickly, and there wasn't a very uniform type of measure that was put into place. Especially our leadership at the top was treating it like a hoax basically for a long time. So I'm always curious as to whether other countries are regarding it in the same way, or if it's not even really on your radar, or what the perception is in general.
Yeah. My sister is in the U.S. too. She's in Ohio,
Oh, okay.
so she's a nurse. So most of the updates I get it from her. Like when it was, really at its peak. I don't know how high it is right now in the U.S.
It's the highest it's ever been. I saw something that there were 70,000 new cases reported on November 1st, and there were 140,000 new cases reported on November 11th or something. Like it's gone up a lot.
Oh, yeah. So most of the times I got the information from her. Like I remember one time I called her. She just got back from work and she was just quiet. And I was like, what's going on? Are you so tired today? And then she just started crying. And she said she just watched a woman die from COVID. She said she's scared every day going to work because she actually gets in contact with people who have been tested positive. So, and then she kept on saying that she also believes that if people can just distance themselves from each other or just put on a simple face mask, just like when you have cold, you sometimes put on a face mask so that you don't infect others, she thinks that it's really going to work because she said it's really a risk for them too as the first responders, they are every day. So I mean, I didn't hear it from the news, which sometimes your government will say fake news, but then I heard it from someone who actually,
Yeah.
she wouldn't want to lie to me for,
No. And I mean, like, what better perspective? Like, I would trust a first responder over the news, even like a trusted news source, like just somebody who's in there, like really experiencing it. I have a friend who is a pulmonologist here in New Orleans and happened to be in like the pulmonology, like lungs, in the middle of this like respiratory illness when it first spiked. And yeah, I talked to him in the first couple of weeks of it being here, and he was like, yeah, I had the worst day of my career yesterday. 5 people died while I was like at work. And that was really early, and up until recently we had done a pretty good job of like keeping numbers down, because it was shocking to deal with that level of sickness and death early on. And yeah, we were like, it's not that hard to wear a mask. It's not that hard to, but other areas of the country didn't have to go through the same thing. Where is she in Ohio? Like Cleveland or Cincinnati or something?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. I mean, across the country, people are having those experiences. So she could really be anywhere.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thanks to her for her work. It's so important, and we're thankful for her service. So pass that on. Thank you both for so much for joining the call and speaking with me. Do you have any final thoughts that you wanted to share, or any questions for me, or anything?
Nothing much. I just think you guys should take it seriously.
I agree. I so agree.
People shouldn't go to educate people that, hey, don't let the government control your life. Well, it's not just about the US. It's almost everywhere.
Yeah.
If it was something that was only in the US, you might start thinking that, okay, maybe this is just a hoax or something. But it's everywhere,
Mm-hmm. But yeah,
your family, everyone, they're okay.
Yeah, they're okay. My grandma, so my mom's family is all in Minnesota, like in the mid part of the country up by Canada, kind of. And my grandma still lives at home alone. She just turned 85 this year. So, but she's like a very like able person, just like so capable. And I'm sure she heard the news and took it seriously, but my aunts and uncles up in Minnesota were like, Mom, you're not leaving the house. Like, we're going to bring you your groceries. You got to. So she was joking at the beginning. She's like, I'm grounded. I'm 85 years old and I'm grounded. But I did get to see her when the curve was sort of flattened over the summer. My family and I got tested, and I drove up from New Orleans, and my family drove from Virginia, and we got together in Wisconsin, which is right next to Minnesota, where we have a lake house, and I got to see my grandma, which was really nice. But my youngest brother, who had a baby last year, he and his family did not come over the summer because they didn't want to drive with the baby and they didn't really want to fly. So I haven't seen my youngest brother or his wife or my nephew since like last Christmas. And I was hoping to see them for Thanksgiving, but like I said, we decided we're not going to do that. So I think for Christmas, I probably still will drive to Virginia and then try to, just stay with my family and not see too many people. Because again, I think it's important to have measures, because you clearly can't trust people to like do the right things, but like I can trust myself to do the right things. Like I'll wear my mask and I'll sanitize my hands and I'll stay distant. So in some cases it's like, if I can trust myself and I can trust these people, like I would love to be able to go to North Carolina for this gathering. But I don't know. I just quoted those numbers to you. Like you can't see cases rising like this and feel like you get to do the things that are being told not to do to other people. But I do hope that I can go home for Christmas and see my family, and that the situation won't be so bad that I feel that that's not a good idea. But yeah, no, everybody's okay. My sister-in-law is a nurse. And I know her sister was put onto a COVID unit for a while, despite like they work in the NICU, like on tiny babies, but they just needed to bring more people into the COVID units for a while. So I know her sister was doing that, and it was pretty intense and pretty hard. But I haven't heard any recent information about that. And for the most part, everybody is doing fine.
Okay, that's great. You guys just stay safe.
Yeah.
Very good for the new president.
Yeah. Well, yeah, when he finally gets inaugurated, I guess. It sounds like some of Trump's lawsuits that he was trying to file got turned down this week, so that was a nice development. It's
Yeah.
been such a ridiculous process, but
Yeah, we'll see.
we'll see. Yeah, yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks again so much for talking. It was really nice to meet you, Martin, and always great to see you, Vallapa. I am glad we tried scheduling this so many times, and we finally did it.
Yeah. It's
All
okay.
right.
Anytime. It's welcome.
Take care, and I can't wait until I can come to Thailand again and visit with you again. It will be really, really wonderful. All righty. Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
All right, folks. Well, that's that. Thanks again for checking in with the Corona Connections Worldwide podcast. Be back next week. Not entirely sure where. Haven't scheduled it yet. Please do find us on Instagram at Corona Connects Pod or Twitter at Rona Connects Pod. And as always, rate, review, subscribe, tell a friend. Thanks. See you next week.